If you're a car enthusiast and you haven't been living under a rock, then you've definitely heard of the Lamborghini Murcielago. The Murcielago is talked about and featured everywhere. Damon at DDE has one, Ed over at VinWiki has one, and a handful of other creators and enthusiasts as well. But why? And let me clarify, I'd love to have one as well. Hit that subscribe button. What makes the Murci so sought after? Owners always say the same things about them. They're expensive to repair, they're not overly fast when compared to modern supercars. Let me put a little asterisk next to that one. They're not very comfortable to drive, they get like 8 miles per gallon in the city, and yet the demand and price for the Murcielago keeps going up and up. So I started doing some digging to understand what makes this supercar so iconic. This is what I found. At first glance, the Murci just screams Italian supercar. I mean, obviously, it's an exotic supercar built in Italy. Thank you, Captain Obvious. To understand what makes this Lambo so desirable, we have to go back to its beginning. The Murcielago was born out of a great line of iconic Lamborghinis. It would be the successor to the very well-received Diablo, which was the successor to the Countach, a car that everyone and their mother has at least heard of at some point. The Countach ended its run in 1990 after 16 years of production. The Diablo would have a run from 1990 to 2001 when it handed off the baton to the Murcielago. By the way, Lamborghini often names their cars after Spanish fighting bulls. In Spanish, Murcielago means bat. The Murcielago is named after a bull with the same namesake that survived a fight from 1879. Alright, let's get into the Murcielago itself. The Murci is an all-wheel drive, mid-engine supercar powered by a 6.2-liter V12. The car has an incredibly angular design and it sits very low to the ground, with its highest point being only 4 feet high. Personally, I think the Murcielago embodies the super aggressive stance, like a predatory animal ready to pounce, that is so indicative of Lamborghinis. Some of the more notable features of the Murcielago are, 1, the incredibly iconic scissor doors that were first introduced with the Countach. 2, the active rear wing that raises electronically at certain speeds to increase downforce. And 3, probably the most interesting feature are the bat wings that deploy behind the small side windows at certain speeds, or when the engine temp reaches a certain point to allow more air to the radiator and increase cooling efficiency. Number 4, and probably the most coveted feature of the Murcielago, is the gated 6-speed manual. The manual was a standard feature, but Lamborghini did offer their E-gear transmission, essentially a very early version of an automatic manual or paddle shifter transmission. The first iteration of the Murci was from 2001 to 2006, and with the E-gear being released in the early stages of that transmission technology, it was prone to wear out and could be quite expensive to repair. As previously mentioned, the power plant was a V12 that produced 572 horsepower and around 479 pound-feet of torque. As a side note, the all-wheel drive system split the power 70-30 rear to front, just in case anyone is keeping score. This model weighed in a little over 3,600 pounds, but was still able to hit north of 60 in just 3.8 seconds. In 2004, the Murcielago Roadster was released. Meant to be an open-top car, it did come with a manually removable soft top that, funnily enough, came with a warning to not exceed 100 miles per hour while it was being used. I'm sure it wasn't cheap replacing that top if it flew off on the highway. In 2006, the Murcielago would see a revitalization in the form of several upgrades. The most notable being a larger 6.5-liter V12 that would now put down over 630 Italian horses. This new iteration would be known as the Murcielago LP640. 640 meaning the power output, and LP standing for longitudinal posteriore, or longitudinal posterior. This tells us the engine orientation, which is north to south or front to back, and that it sits behind the driver. I know everyone was dying to know what the LP stood for, and now you know. You're welcome. The more noticeable change to the Murci came in the form of a facelift for the front and rear of the car. The front was especially much more aggressive looking, with a redesigned lower lip while also incorporating a new air intake, feeding, and oil cooler. A new exhaust system and an upgraded suspension were all fine and dandy, but the one big change for the LP640 transmission was the introduction of an upgraded clutch for the ever-divisive E-gear. This new e-gear was more robust and had a longer life, but it was still prone to errors with its programming. However, a launch mode was introduced with the LP640. With the introduction of the LP640, also came a roadster version that had the same performance specifications as its hardtop brother. As the Murcielago neared the end of its production run, a newer, better, more version of the Murci was released. In 2009, the Murcielago LP670-4 Super Veloce hit the world. Super Veloce means super fast, by the way. The SV, having the same 6.5 liter V12, now produced almost 670 horses due to a few tweaks to the engine timing and a new intake system. Through the use of even more carbon fiber, lighter weight Alcantara for the interior, and a lighter exhaust system, the SV shed an additional 220 pounds. Now standard for the SV were the carbon ceramic brakes, which were previously just an option. With the weight saving and the kick and horsepower, remember the asterisks, the SV would hit 60 in 3.1 seconds and drop the quarter mile in 10.9 while hitting 129 miles per hour. Those are pretty damn good numbers for a car that weighs as much as it does and is as big as it is. Originally, the SV was slated to have 350 examples made. However, somewhere in the range of 186 to roughly 260 or so were ever produced due to the factory needing room and resources to prep for the production of the soon-to-come Aventador. That number does vary depending on the source, so it's hard to nail down how many were actually made. There were a few limited edition models of the Murcielago with very low production numbers. You can go check them out, but they're basically SVs with a little more carbon fiber, different paint specs, or even interior material and stitching. With all of that, the last thing I'm going to talk about briefly is how Lamborghini's acquisition by Audi helped the development and overall success of the Murcielago. In 1998, Volkswagen purchased Lamborghini, who was going through some financial hardship at the time, for a bargain of $110 million. Lamborghini would be structured under the ownership of Audi, another brand owned by Volkswagen. The Murcielago would become the first car developed under Audi's ownership. Being developed under Audi meant that the Murci would see several positive changes. The first being the union of Audi's more modern and dependable electronics and components with Lamborghini's raw ability to make iconic supercars. Second, due to Audi's oversight, the Murci ended up being a much more well-built vehicle overall. The fit and finish was more refined and more precise when talking about gaps and panels lining up properly. The third thing that it benefited from with being owned by Audi was the availability of replacement parts. While still not being the type of vehicle you could just place an order for and go pick up from a parts supplier, under Audi's ownership, parts for the Murci were much easier to source than previous Lamborghini models. When it was first released, the Murcielago went for about $270,000, with the LPs fetching around $300,000 or more depending on options. Today, the base models are still around that price, but the manuals, and especially the 640s and SVs, can go for several times that amount to almost $1.5 million. So, why is the Murcielago such a sought-after car? To say that it's one or two things specifically would do a disservice to understanding why it's so iconic, especially in the exotic car community. If you ask me, and nobody did, so I'll tell you what I think anyways, it's a host of things that make this thing so popular. I think being developed under Audi's eye helped to evolve Lamborghini supercars from a handmade, sort of quirky car like the Diablo into a much more refined and reliable platform in the Murcielago. It's the big V12 screaming out of the back of it. It's the feeling of the manual clicking through its gated gearbox. It's how raw and analog the driving experience is, even though it's not overly comfortable to drive. I mean, just take a moment to really look at the Murcielago. It looks like a beautiful precision weapon designed to dissect the road. The reality is, it's all of these things and more. But for me, I'll just sum it up by saying, it's just awesome. Need I say more? All right, that's it. Thank you so much for being here. Do you think the Murcielago is special? Leave me a comment and let me know how you feel about it. If you enjoyed this video or just want to help me out, hit that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. All right, that's it. Stay safe out there, guys. Take care of each other and enjoy the ride. Peace.
Anybody even listen to this kind of shit anymore? What do you mean? This isn't real music. Hip-hop is dead. Dead. Nobody knows how to make real music anymore. Dead. 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 Dead.